Welcome to The Gabrielle Lara Show, a podcast dedicated to normalizing the messy middle of entrepreneurship. I am your host, Gabrielle Lara, and I invite entrepreneurs from all walks of life onto this podcast to share what they navigated to get from where they were to where they are now. My hopes of this podcast is to help you feel more seen and heard in your entrepreneurial journey as you navigate your own version of the messy middle. I appreciate you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Gabrielle Lara Show, where I bring on entrepreneurs from all walks of life to share their story and really share with you guys the messy middle that they navigated to get from where they were to where they are now. I hope you've been loving these stories. We've had incredible people on the podcast, and we have an awesome woman here with us today. Her name is Saba, and you may have heard of her before, especially if you are a VA. She is CEO and founder of the In Demand VA, and she is going to walk us through her story, which I am so excited to hear. So, Saba, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure. You know, you and I love everything about you, and we've connected on so many levels. And it's really an honor to be on the podcast to talk about how the hell I got here.
Oh, I mean, that is it. That's it. And thank you so much. I appreciate that deeply. I really am so excited to just learn more about you and your story.
Yeah.
So let's dive on into it. Like, share your story with us. Where were you before all of this? How did you get here? And like, what hurdles did you have to navigate to get from there to here?
So my story is very interesting. It's really interesting, and I always say that it's like it's one of one, and but it's one of one, but it's also something that's super relatable. And so I, prior to 2020 and all the world shutting down and shifting us into like uncertainty, I was a server for 9 years at a specific restaurant back in Florida. Um, and I actually became a VA accidentally before the world shut down. And so I saw one of my Instagram friends post that she needed a video editor. And I was working full time as a server, and I was like, oh, I could do something like online. And so I I've never edited a video in my life, but I applied for it knowing that I've never edited a video in my life. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what were you thinking? Um,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I literally I don't even know. Like it literally made no sense as to why I was applying for it because I didn't check any of the boxes on that application. Um, and so I just applied for it. And of course I got a no. I literally got a flat no because again, I've never edited a video in my life, and I literally said that on the application. But getting the no, she was like, "Hey, you're not a good fit for this, but I've seen you kind of like doing your thing on Instagram. Would you like to be my VA?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. I would like to be your VA. What is that?" And so she's like, "Oh, you kind of just are like my admin. You would just assist me in a little." On my business side. And so she was a Squarespace web designer. And so that's kind of like where I got started unintentionally. And so I always use that standpoint with my students now that like that no that I knew was going to be a no really turned into a yes unintentionally. And it's what gave me my first client prior to even knowing what a VA was. And that was about 6 months before the world shut down. And so when the world shut down, I did get furloughed and I lost my job. And we were sent home for 9 months. They were just like, hey, we'll see you in 9 months. And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, that's insane. What am I supposed to do in 9 months? And so I had a friend of mine randomly, and it's so crazy because I was already a VA doing minimal things, but she was like, hey, I saw this ad about being a virtual assistant. I think it would be good for you. And I'm like, yeah, I think maybe, yeah, okay. And I'm like, but I really don't like that. And for some reason, I thought it was very different what she was talking about and what I was doing for the client that I already had. Um, and I kind of pushed it off. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And she's like, no, 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 I really think that you would be great at this. And I'm like, no, no, I would not. Like, I don't know what are you talking about? And then she was like, it's the doors are closing to this course and you need to get in this course with me. Like, I think you'd be a really good fit for this. And I'm like, no, no, I don't want to do that. First of all, I'm laid off. I don't have any money and you want me to put $500 into a course that I don't want to take. And no, like, I don't want to do it. And literally on the last day, she is like, we have to do this. Like, we have nothing else to do. We might as well do this. And I tell my friend all the time, I'm like, you forced me into this thing. But I did join the course, and it's a really big known course. And for me, it wasn't everything that I needed to become a VA. So I found myself doing a lot more research and stuff like that. And because I have a bachelor's degree. I literally was getting a master's degree. I'm very proactive. I'm research heavy. Like, I very much taught myself to become a VA. And then I realized, I really am good at this thing, because about 3 months in, I went from having that one client and being laid off to having seven clients, and having, like, now I was becoming known in the space for this VA thing. When in reality, it was something that I tried to get out of. I really did not want to be a VA. It wasn't my dream. I did not dream of becoming an entrepreneur. I kind of just fell into my lap and I was like, it won't hurt. Let's just give this thing a try. Um, and so I did really well there. And then about, you know, months later after that, I became really known in that space because I talked about it a lot. That, like, hey, I'm doing this new thing. I'm not really sure what I'm doing, but I'm doing this new thing. And I became really great at it. And people started inquiring, how did you do that? How did you get those clients? Where did you learn? And it prompted me to dig a little deeper and figure out how I could help other women do the same. And that's kind of like what birthed me going into creating the course that is now the In Demand VA, which has successfully trained over 176 women worldwide in a 2-year span. So I'm really excited about that.
That's wild. Oh
It
my
is
gosh, that
wild.
is that you must feel so proud of yourself.
Yeah. Some days I'm just like, am I really doing this thing? And then I look over to my wall with all 176 stickers in my room and I'm like, you are really doing this thing.
Yeah.
You really
Oh, no,
are.
you are. You're
Yeah.
doing the damn thing.
Yeah.
So, I have to ask you, so you probably saw me, like, jotting down notes and stuff because when I listen to you, I just my intuition will do these questions, and so
Yeah.
I'm so curious to hear, what did you said that you didn't dream of being an entrepreneur. What did you dream of doing?
Honestly, I really wanted to become a psychologist. That was my goal. I was in school
Mm.
to become a psychologist. I was really into mental health, and I really wanted to go that route. I really wanted to just become a psychologist and go all the way to a PhD. Um, and I realized before COVID and all that happened that getting a master's degree is really hard. And because I worked full time and I was traveling and I was also I realized that, like, it was just a lot on me at the moment. So I put my master's degree on pause. Um, Sorry, mom, because I don't think my parents actually know that.
Sure.
And so I put my master's degree on pause for the last 3 months of my master's degree. And then COVID happened later on, and I realized that, you know what, maybe this is the route that I am supposed to be on. Will I go back and finish my master's degree? Probably, because I already spent and paid most of the money, and
Yeah.
I want that piece of paper because I put in the work for that.
Yeah.
But I definitely, yeah, and I really just wanted to be a psychologist. I really was not looking into owning a business, which wows me now because it looks like I was built for business, but prior to, I would have never, if it wasn't for my friend, I would not have casted myself into becoming a business owner. Absolutely not.
Well, that is what I wanted to mention next. Like, that friend of yours, like, that is one of like, that's one of your angels. Like, that
Yeah.
is an angel sent
Yeah.
down who and so this is crazy, and anyone listening, if you're new here, I'm quite spiritual. As I said that, and you'll have to watch back on this at 8 minutes and 40 seconds, a light went through.
No way.
Like, shot up there, like an orb or whatever you wanna call it went through as I
That is
said that.
so
Like, that
awesome.
friend of yours
Yeah.
is your angel. Like,
Yeah.
she saw your potential more than you, at the time, as it sounds, saw your
Yeah.
own potential.
Yeah. She did. And believe it or not, about 6 months afterwards, the course started, and it did really well. And my friend was actually one of my students. because she also realized that the course that we got was not the best fit. And so,
Yeah.
with all that we knew, all the gaps that we found, I did my due diligence to kind of fill them in, and she became one of my students.
Aw.
She's also worked for me, and she's
Oh.
actually about to become my personal assistant. So like my students have met her live before, and she got to tell the story from her side as well. Because a lot of people are like, Saba, you're built for this, and I'm like, no, no, this girl right here forced me to do this. Like, I need you to know that, like, I did not, because I think there's like this notion that like, people are like, oh, I always knew I was supposed to have this big old business idea, and I'm like, no, no, no. I literally would have, no, I would have never been able to see this coming. And if I did, I literally probably would not have said, pick me, because it's just not
Yeah.
something that was in me. But I realized that um, I am doing what I would have done as a psychologist. I am doing things that are in my leadership role that's in me as a person. And so I may not have gone the psychology route or the psychologist route, but I really am still doing what I was supposed to be doing.
And I was gonna mention that, like, it's so interesting how you are going that route because so much of having clients, having students, anything, it's a lot of mindset work with them.
Yeah.
Regardless of what coach you are, like, they're gonna lean on you
Yeah.
for their ups and downs. And
Yeah.
that's really aside from you teaching them your craft, that's a big reason why they invest in somebody. And
Yeah.
so I think it's a beautiful thing that you have that under your belt.
Yeah, yeah. I know a lot of people will knock, like college and um those
Mhm.
things, but I really believe that I was always a learner. I always loved
Yeah.
school. I was, always into public speaking and stuff like that. And so I realized that all those things prior to becoming a business owner, we can shoot college on all we want. And I do think college is, for the most part, a scam for a majority of people because a lot of people don't really need it. But
Mhm.
going to college and working in corporate and having a manager and doing all those things, I think they really did set me up with structure because I use that same structure in my business now. And it's something that we can't act like it doesn't exist. Like, working
Right,
from
right.
9 to 5 is something that we get from corporate. And I believe that it allows you to really live a balanced life. And so I really think that all those things were like aligning for this to happen because my friend that I met, I actually met her 1 year exact the year before. So we weren't friends
Wow.
for a very long time. And I met her at my job that we got laid off from. And so it kind of just was like all playing its part, waiting for it all to unfold. And I find that to be like, it's amazing. It really is.
That's so awesome, and I love how you highlighted that too, because I think there is a lot of pressure on people these days where they hear from, all these online entrepreneurs is don't do college, and I always go back to it's an opportunity there if it's aligned in your journey.
Yeah.
Like for me, I look back, I went to college and like anyone spent a boatload of money and it's like, do I use what I got my degree in? No. But did I need it for like the social aspect? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like so there's so many different things. And I love how you said that too with the 9 to 5. It does give you that structure and like all of these things are just stepping stones guiding you to where you are now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like that's what you learn. And so something else that came up for me as we were talking is you said, my friend wanted me to invest 500 bucks. I had no money and you still did it. So walk us through that because I know a lot of people listening are in the position where maybe it's either their first investment that they want to make in somebody or potentially they're in the position where they're like, I don't feel like I have the funds to do that. Like, how did you navigate that conversation with yourself and make that decision to do it?
One, I've never really been a person that was very tight in the sense of personal development. And so when it came to me, I would give my last dollar to advance myself. And so I think a lot of people get in their mind about, spending money. They think that, oh, if I spend this money, I'm spending this money on the person that I'm giving it to rather than I'm giving this money to them for me to get something out of it for me. So in reality, the investment is for me. So whether it's giving it to somebody else, I think that looking at it in that way allows you to realize that you're not just handing over money to a stranger, you're handing over money from knowledge in return for you to go out and do something with it. And so although I really didn't have money at the time, I actually put the course on a gift card that my job gave me. They gave us $1,000 gift card. They were like, hey, you'll be off for 9 months. Here's $1,000. And I was like, oh, yay, thanks for that. Thanks. I'll live off $1,000 for 9 months. Absolutely. Right. And so I took $500 out of that $1,000 gift card and I put the course on it. Um, and really what went through my mind was that I was just like, she just kept bringing it up. I did my research. I realized that there was a lot of people that were joining in this program and they had really good things to say about it. And so I'm like, you know what, like the social proof is there. And then I had a conversation with my now boyfriend who, he was like, this year is going to show two things. It's going to show a lot of people did absolutely nothing with their time, and then it's going to show that some people took advantage of their time because we knew we were going into a lockdown. So it was like a lot of people are going to either take advantage of this time, and at the end of the year, you're going to have a lot more to show for it. And he was like, I really hope that you are going to be one of the people that didn't waste your time while we had the downtime.
Oh,
And so he was actually the
wow.
last person that I
Wow.
spoke to after my friend that was like, his exact words were, what else are you going to do with your time? And he was right. I was
Wow.
unemployed. I couldn't travel because the world was shut down, and I literally was sitting at home watching the walls. And so I realized that, like, truly, what else are you going to do? Like, how much is it going to hurt you to spend your time doing something productive, just to see? Because it may work. You may be one of those people that wasted your time, or you may not be. And I
Mm.
never want to position myself to be someone who, like, did any self-inflicting, right? I really don't want to be the person that harms myself in a way where I didn't need to. And so I took his advice and I purchased the course, knowing that there was really no outcome in my mind. I wasn't like, oh, I want to become a booked out VA, or I really want these clients. I didn't even know what a client was, to be honest. Even though I had a client,
Yeah.
I didn't even understand her. I didn't understand what was going on, but I was like, you know what, it's worth a try. It really is worth a try. I prefer to put things behind me and say, you know what, at least I tried, rather than just
Yeah.
wondering what it would have been like. And when I tell my students that story now, they're like, "So you're saying like you wouldn't have been where you are today?" And I'm like, "No, I wouldn't have been." And so I think it's
Yeah.
really important too that, like, I realize that sometimes the clarity that you need does not come until after you take that first step. And so after I bought
Mhm.
the program is and I mentioned that I was becoming this VA out loud to other people, they were like, absolutely. Like, you're made for that. It just as my friend said. And I was like, oh my gosh, you think so? Like, okay, more now that more people are like, yeah, you're really made for this. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really gonna give it my all now. Like, you guys really think I'm good. So, like, let's give it a shot.
You opened yourself up. You
Yeah.
opened yourself up to it, and it, like, flew into your experience. You
Yeah.
just, like, let it flow, and
Yeah.
I think that that's so beautiful because that's the part that a lot of people resist, but it seems like you just, like, jumped into the deep end and was like, "Whatever, like,
Yeah.
either I sink or I swim, and,
Yeah.
like, we'll figure it out," and,
Yeah.
like, that's, like, what you do in entrepreneurship is it's constant cannonballs into that deep end of, like, are we swimming or are we sinking?
Yeah.
Sometimes we sink, it's all good. Sometimes we swim, awesome. And it's like that constant ping pong battle back and forth.
Yeah.
And I love so much that you did that. And I hope everyone listening, like you said in the beginning, it's so relatable. And I
Yeah.
hope everyone listening is like, yeah, okay, I can tune that into like the story that I'm experiencing right
Yeah.
now.
My dad has
So
always been that
when you were
person too, though. He's like, he really, like,
yeah,
uh my dad his favorite words are go for it. And so
yeah,
even as growing up, like, he would always just, I'd be like, oh, do you think I should, like, go ride my bike? He's like, go for it, or do you think I should do this? And he's like, go for it. Like, it was never, I don't know, have you really thought about, he's like, no, go for it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to travel to Europe by myself. Go for it and send me pictures while you're there. Like, so I've always had that mentality in me. And so I'm really not one, and this is for anyone listening, sometimes you have to not weigh the cost. And I think a lot of times we spend so much time in weighing the cost of, like, well, is this going to, and it will it be, and all those things, and it's like, well, we don't know, right? The social proof can be there. You can say you're going to do the work, you can calculate it all the way down to the T, and you just don't know how life is going to happen for you. You might be motivated to get in, and then you get in and you're not actually motivated still. But it's like, we really will never know until you actually get on the other side of that investment. And I have absolutely spent a ton of money on things that on investments that I did not need, like either in like, you know, purchasing another program or doing things just because of FOMO. And I fell into the trap as well. And so I don't want it to seem as if like I always made the best decision, because I've spent a ton of money on things that I didn't do enough research in and stuff like that. And so it sucks, but I've made it all back. And I'm still the girl, and I'll always be the girl that will tell you to just go for it, because now I know what not to do. Now I know what not to do. I know what will
Mhm.
upset my CFO when it comes to making investments, and I know what there's a feeling that you get, and that's one thing that I learned from my business coach. Is she's like, you know, Saba, you will feel good, and if there's any
Mhm.
reservation in you, you want to check in on that and figure out, is it the reservation coming from me, or is the reservation coming because I feel like I don't have enough information on this investment that I'm making, and I feel like I'm kind of clueless. And she's like, if you feel like it's you, then it's probably a good time to take the plunge, because your body's letting you know that the shift that you're needing is right here, and you have to be the one to initiate it.
So
Yeah,
good. That's your
yeah,
gut. That's your gut saying this it feels good because it's in
yeah,
alignment. I always tell my clients that like you will know if something is aligned when it feels good. There's no weight, there's no heavy chest, there's no, fast beating heart
yeah,
or upset stomach. It just feels right.
yeah,
And the challenging part with that sometimes is like us as people haven't particularly like put the pieces like connected the
yeah,
dots, but it feels
yeah,
good. So we're like, okay, let's do it. And then as you said, it's like you take that first step and then, the carpet just kind of
yeah,
unravels and you walk down it.
yeah,
And like that's the way that it goes. But I love that support from your dad. That's so
yeah.
powerful.
That's always been something that
Mm,
my dad has always been that guy, and I've been very,
mm,
I've never really been a fearful person, anyways. And I think it's because I just know that you just will never know. We can sit here and talk
yeah.
about what we don't know, or we can just go and find out. And I'm the girl that's gonna go and find out. Yeah,
Yes. And like that right there is the entrepreneurial spirit
yeah,
because you're resilient, right? That's resiliency. It's like I'm gonna figure it out.
yeah,
Like, we're just gonna go for it. We're gonna figure it out. And if that road doesn't work, we're gonna take the next
yeah,
road and we're going to figure it
yeah.
out. I think that's so powerful. So I want to ask you, what would you say, if you're comfortable sharing so far, is like the most challenging thing that you've faced in entrepreneurship?
The most challenging thing that I faced would have to be um, allowing myself to get support in terms of like a team. Um, and so
Yeah.
when you create something that you're super passionate about, you want to make sure that you're bringing in people onto your team or in your business that are also passionate about. Because for me, um, I didn't get into becoming a virtual assistant coach because it was the thing that pays. I got into it because people saw me as an expert, and I really wanted to share my knowledge, and it was the only way to package it in a way where I could touch multiple people at once, rather than like, doing one on one. And so I I really want my team. I really wanted my team to be a reflection of myself. And so I didn't want anyone that was going to be money hungry. I wanted people that were really excited for my students, that loved on my students, that really truly wanted to see the impact of the becoming a VA in the community and all that kind of stuff. And so finding people that fit that characteristic has been kind of difficult, but I do have a stellar team right now that's amazing, and it really grounds me in a sense of like I can't do it on my own. I
Mm.
really can't. And when I say community, I mean like my team, myself, my students, the community on Instagram, the community on YouTube, on TikTok, on Twitter. All those people play a specific role in how and why we can have 176 students now, because everyone knows their place and everyone has the same passion as I. And so really narrowing, and it's like, again, me choosing my team members has come down to how I feel. Believe it or not, none of my team members, I've never put out an application. I've never said, hey, I'm hiring. They've never said, hey, here's my services. I could just feel with all the VAs that I've had, actually,
Mm.
they were not VAs until I approached them. I was like, hey, I need you on my team, and here's what I need you to do. And here's how we're gonna do it, kind of thing. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, absolutely." They were absolutely clueless as into what I wanted them to do, but they were like, yeah, yeah, show me how. And it's because I can train. As an entrepreneur, I feel like you can train anyone. You can train anyone to do anything. You could train them to become a web designer, to become a graphic designer, to become a speaker. All you can do all those things. But passion, discipline, dedication is something that you really truly can't pick up off the ground. And so I can sense it in other people. And I prefer to take on people that have those attributes, and then we'll do the training afterwards. Because those people are people that will stick with me long term. And if and when money is not coming in, they won't buckle, right? There'll be people that are, you know what, I understand businesses this way. I understand what can we do? How can we make it, a great partnership for you and I, because I truly believe in the vision of your business. And that part was really difficult, just, going through the ebbs and flows of finding people that way. But I'm really, really grateful that my team
Mhm.
believes in me, they root for me, and they believe in the impact that I want to give to my students. And that's the most important thing for me. Money is amazing. Money is great. And I think the money that we've made is just a byproduct of all the effort that we've put in. But having the right people on your team and finding the right people, even though I'm a virtual assistant coach, is difficult. Was really difficult.
Mm. You know what's so interesting is how they weren't VAs before you approached them, and neither
Yeah,
were you until somebody
yeah,
approached you. That is like, tell me that doesn't
yeah.
come full
Full
circle.
circle.
That's
Yeah,
crazy, Saba. Right when you said that, I was like, "Oh
yeah,
shit, that's
yeah.
wild."
It's amazing.
Wow. Okay, so what has been the most beautiful thing that you've experienced so far in entrepreneurship?
The most beautiful thing in entrepreneurship is really watching my students go from I don't think this is going to work to oh my gosh, I can't believe this is working. And it does it for me
Yeah.
every single time, because just as I'm like, oh, I don't know about this thing, but as you immerse and when you get the right support, you truly start to feel like I know what I'm doing. And I
Mhm.
because of my business coach, I really stand very solid, on my 2 feet when it comes to doing business, and I feel very confident in what I do. And it's something, watching my confidence kind of like seep into my students and watching them glow up and then really go out and be like, I am doing this thing. And I'm like, do you remember when you first started and you thought this was like a scam? Do you remember? Like, do you see it unfolding now? And they're like, yeah, I just needed to be patient. I needed to put my mind in the right spot, and I needed the right support. And it really does it for me every single time when my students have that, like, oh my gosh, Saba, what you said was gonna happen is happening. And it's like it's really the best
Mm.
feeling ever.
That's so beautiful, Saba. And like, because that, and I love asking that question because it's never the money that
Yeah,
people say. And it's interesting because so often that's what people think that like you go and chase, but it's not the money, it's always the
yeah,
impact. It's knowing that like you can give these or help facilitate these transformations
yeah,
for people. That is
yeah.
so beautiful. So I have 2 questions left that I wanna ask you. So number 1 is, what is something that you wish you could go back and tell yourself at the start of your business?
At the start of my business, I probably would definitely tell myself to slow down. And as crazy
Mhm.
as it sounds, I scaled really, really fast in my business. And I really don't even know why, in a sense. Like I wasn't like chasing, I really don't know why, but I guess I could kind of be called a workaholic. Like I was really interested in this thing and I really just spent a lot of time on it. But by doing that, I really neglected myself physically. And I didn't rest much because I just always felt like, I got to get it done. I got to get it done. And I realized that my to-do list wasn't going anywhere. And it still hasn't gone anywhere 2 years in. And so I slowly started to realize that it doesn't matter how many hours you put in because there'll always be more work to be done. Therefore, you might as well work from a place of rest, rather than a place of exhaustion. Because for a long time in the first year and a half of my business, I scaled and did amazing numbers, and brought in a lot of women and taught a lot of things. But like I was slowly breaking myself in a sense because I was exhausted. I was exhausted because I felt like I needed to. I was racing to a finish line that doesn't exist. And then when it hit me, I remember in 2020 I was taking a solo trip to Mexico after launching the course for the first time. And on the flight, I was messaging a friend of mine. Her name is Jess Massey on Instagram, and she's the one who taught me all about organization and creating a schedule that honors my energy and all that kind of stuff. And I remember writing a note out to her, And I was like, I just really want to give you a hug because I'm on my way to my solo trip and I am exhausted. And this is the last
Mm,
time I will be this exhausted because I am going to take what you say and I'm going to put it into action. I'm going to start working from a place of rest rather than a place of exhaustion because I deserve that. And I've really realized that,
yeah.
like, I shifted a bunch of things in my schedule and all those things because I realized that, like, I am a better version when I am rested rather than being exhausted. You cannot serve how you want to. The money will be great, but the money will go right back to the doctor because you killed yourself trying to get there, and it's just not worth it. You really don't have to do that, because the clients will be there, the impact will still be made, the money will be made, but will you be here to even see it unfold is the most important thing. And so if I could go back, I would tell people that you really want to take your time. Scaling really fast was really hard because I wasn't prepared. I've never owned a business before, and for me to go from not owning a business to almost making $100,000 in 6 months is insane, right? I never knew what a sales, learning all those things so fast, although great, I wish I could have gone back and slowed down. I would have taken my time. There's a lot of clients I wouldn't have taken on. I wouldn't have said yes to everything. And I definitely would have gotten more rest. I would not even just sleep, but I really would have turned my brain off a lot more. Um, and so that's definitely something because people are like, I want to be like you, and I'm like, no, 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 please don't be like me. Please don't be like the first year and a half of my
Yeah.
business. I really want you to take your time, enjoy the
Aw,
process because there. I mean, I'm still doing the same amount of work I was doing back then. So what was I rushing for? If that makes sense. So yeah, that's
right.
definitely my number one thing
Oh,
is
that's
to
so nice.
really, you deserve to get your rest. You really do.
Yeah. Wow, that's so beautiful. I've been hearing the slowing down thing a lot lately.
Yeah,
I've just been seeing it all over. And a phrase that I've been hearing a lot is like you speed up by
yeah,
slowing down. And then at first I was like, what the hell does that
yeah,
mean? Like, no, you don't. It's so easy to be like, what? That makes no sense because no one really talks about like
yeah,
pumping the brakes. So I love how you just mentioned that. And especially an entrepreneur at your caliber saying like, no, that's the key is like pump
yeah.
the brakes, slow it down. Like it is okay. There's no finish line. That was really, really powerful. I hope everyone listening like really takes note of that. Like there's Jenny, like there's no finish line. It
It
just
really
doesn't
doesn't
stop.
stop.
So you need to stop yourself.
It really doesn't stop.
That is so awesome. So final question is how can people get in touch with you? If they want to work with you, if they want to join your course, how can they find you? How can they follow you and how can they work with
So
you?
I made it really easy by keeping the same name across all platforms. I know that can be very hard for some people. So on Instagram, you can find me at the Indemand VA. You can also find me at my website, theindemandva.com. You can find me on Twitter, the Indemand VA, and on YouTube very soon, the Indemand VA. If you want to look into getting into the program and the community, definitely shoot me a DM on Instagram. We can chat about it. We will be relaunching the new version 2.0, completely revamped, and it's going to be like literally looking at it, I'm like, I like what, where is this being done, like it's so good, and I'm so
Yeah,
excited
that's
about it. It'll
amazing.
be launching in October, and if you want to get in on that, definitely shoot me a message. You can also email me at support@theindemandva.com, and we have so many touch points to chat. I'm an open book. Shoot me a voice note. I'm truly excited to connect with other people and really get to know them on a personal level because again, business is great, making money is great, but everyone that has become a client of mine has been someone that I've built a rapport with. And I like knowing people before getting to even talking about money because I really want to know why do you want to do these things, and what's really your true desire and how can I help you do that?
That's so beautiful. And that right there, everyone, just shows Saba's heart. And as I looked up at the recording, it was
Oh,
3333 when
that's
you finished that.
awesome.
So there you go. Saba and follow her on Instagram, guys, because the amount of value that she gives out in her posts is tenfold. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with our audience,
Yes.
Saba.
Thank you
I
so much
really,
for
really
having
appreciate
me.
you. Did you enjoy today's episode? If so, I would be super appreciative if you left a review and a rating and shared this with a friend so that I can continue to bring you value every single week. I'll see you next time.